The past uncovered. It started 8 years ago, when you disappeared, Miles said. For once there was some emotion behind his words that wasn't anger. We held a meeting. It was clear to us you were in a dire situation. Although the severity of your predicament wasn't known, we knew you needed relief. I suggested me and Amy could fly out in the tornado to you, since it seemed to be the quickest option since portable reinforcements made their way to you. Knuckles gave us the green light, and we quickly began to make our way over to you. We managed to make it to the fort where you were holding out from, but only found rubble lying around, with no sign of you anywhere to be seen. Before we could even think about landing, we received heavy fire and were shot down. We managed to abandon the tornado before it hit the ground. I grabbed a hold of Amy, trying to give us a good landing, but we ended up crashing into a patch of trees and tumbling to the ground. We barely had a moment to stand up before swarms of badniks came to attack us. We were left with little choice but to retreat and try and make it back to base. The way back was long and arduous, with us fighting off a steady stream of badniks the whole way. That was, until we made it to the front lines. We attempted to slip past Eggman's armies and make our way back to the base, but we were spotted and forced to engage in battle while completely encircled. What made the situation worse was the sheer amount and variety of robots Eggman had at his disposal. During the fighting, a robot managed to get behind me and grabbed one of my tails, swung me against the ground several times and tried to use me as a weapon until Amy managed to take it out. The beating left me with several broken bones, a crushed leg, mangled arm, damaged chest, and one of my tails was ripped off. Some forces managed to relieve us and extract us back to friendly territory. I had to be carried away since my injuries left chunks of my body completely paralyzed. Back at the base, everyone was shocked at the state of me. It became clear to everyone that mercy was something neither side would or should give. Gadget would help me make some new limbs and tried his hardest to make them as good as possible, but ultimately, we didn't have enough time to create new technologies during a war we were losing. We were forced to retreat from our base as Eggman's armies came ever closer to world domination. Everyone was scrambling to organize civilian evacuations, set up defenses, and try to prevent Eggman from conquering everything. Unfortunately, by this point, our forces had been decimated and separated. Only me, Gadget, Shadow, Knuckles, Rouge, and Amy stood to lead the last hope of the world, but we knew it would be futile. It was decided Amy would lead as many civilians and soldiers as possible to Angel Island, in the hopes that they'd be able to create a new society that would be free from Eggman's grasp, while the rest of us would attempt to create an underground resistance network against Eggman once the conventional fighting had ended. We managed to establish a small base in the sewers of a pre-existing city we presumed Eggman would build over. We were correct. Over time, as Eggman cities grew, so did we. Our next base we wanted to establish was in the industrial zone Eggman had created within the city. Me and Gadget were tasked with finding somewhere suitable that we could use. By this point, me and Gadget had managed to replace all my destroyed limbs with bionic replacements. During our expedition, we could only find a small basement-like structure and some abandoned tunnels, the same structure we're in right now. Me and Gadget even managed to establish a small laboratory here, where we managed to improve my bionics and even create some weapons for the Resistance. Unfortunately, one day he ventured out to try and collect any scrap pieces of metal we could use, but he went missing and nothing of him has been found in 6 years. No traces to indicate he's alive or dead. Nothing. Over time, I have continued to improve my bionics and develop new weapons. I have even been in several riots against Eggman, the most recent of which is why this area is locked down. About a month ago, a strike here ground the whole industrial zone to a halt. Eggman responded by brutally attacking the strikers, which only turned into a riotous mob as more and more people joined in. Factories were heavily damaged or even destroyed. Barricades of anything the rioters could find were erected, and even security robots were being destroyed. The Resistance managed to find out about this and sent weapons and men to organize the riot into a coordinated force, but ultimately the mob couldn't be organized. I decided on my own that any fight against Eggman's rule was one I should always partake in, no matter what. So I joined the fray and did all I could to help the rioters seize the city from Eggman, but in the end, we were beaten and this whole area of the city is under a strict curfew for most of the day, and the perimeter is constantly patrolled. This lab has been empty except for me since. Everyone else is either dead or relocated to other bases. There's not many more people in this area as well. The death toll in the riot was immense, and many more were arrested. That's what happened in the 8 years since you disappeared. The room lay in silence for a few short moments. Sonic sat there, motionless. He felt every emotion he could, from shock that this had happened, to grief over the countless losses to a fire burning inside of him. Where is he? Sonic demanded, engulfed in rage. No one does that to my friends and gets away with it. Ever. I've wanted to know where he is as well, Miles said, sharing in Sonic's anger. I'll make sure he feels what everyone that suffered under this tyranny and lust for power did. I'll make every second he spends with me feel like an eternity of pain. A quick death would be too kind for him, and wouldn't give justice to the world he made suffer for no other reason than to satiate his own ego. Sonic's rage gave way to bewilderment at what Miles had said. While Eggman wouldn't have a good time if Sonic got to him, Miles, on the other hand, seemed to have gone insane, and worryingly, it seemed like he would actively enjoy torturing Eggman if given the chance. Sonic began to wonder, was there even anything left of the cheerful tales left in Miles anymore?